He'd seen a lot in his years on the force. Dogs loose in traffic, disputes over hedges, the occasional squirrel panic in a grocery store. But this one had him staring at a patch of woods, wondering if he'd walked onto the set of a food commercial gone wrong. It was Veterans Park in Old Bridge, Middlesex County. A quiet stretch of trees and a stream that usually gets nothing more dramatic than the sound of kayaks or the chirp of crickets. Instead, they were facing what looked like a year's worth of spaghetti night gone off the rails. Hundreds of pounds of pasta, ziti, spaghetti, macaroni, just dumped along the creek bed. Big piles of uncooked noodles strewn like some strange carb-filled art installation. More than 500 pounds of it, according to estimates. His partner nudged one mound with his boot and half expected it to wiggle back. They looked at each other, both silently asking, why though? No calls had come in, no 911 panic about flying linguine. The first they knew of this was an alert from a community advocate, someone who had posted photos on Facebook and made the whole thing go viral. Town officials said the pasta had been taken out of its packaging and dumped along the creek. Public Works crew were called in to clean it up. 2 people, an hour, and a lot of baffled head-scratching later, it was gone. They took reports, they counted noodles like they were evidence markers, and at the end of the day, they were still asking the same question. Who dumps a 1/4 ton of pasta in the woods? You're listening to True Crime Culinary. I'm your host, Leah Jack. Let's sink our teeth into this story. Hello, and welcome to True Crime Culinary, the podcast where we explore true crime through the lens of food, history, culture, and the surprising ways the two intersect. I'm your host, Leah Jack, food enthusiast, Wikipedia diver, and all-around lover of random facts. Thus, I started this podcast because I thought there's got to be more than me. So what about this story? I'm going to go back to the macaroni mystery, and then I'm going to tie it in to our food of the day. So, no charges were ultimately filed. Some locals said they knew who did the macaroni mystery dump, and that it actually was somebody they cared for with a history of mental health struggles. When I read the article and kind of looked at the video reporting, it actually ended up being a story more about kind of like the dumping in general in that area. And it was just like the macaroni got attention because of, 500 pounds of macaroni, you know what I'm saying? But for the policemen standing there with soggy elbows of macaroni at their feet, it remained one of those cases that made you shake your head and think that sometimes truth really is stranger than fiction. Okay, why did I mention macaroni? You're probably thinking we're going to Italy. Nay. I just got back from Egypt. So today we're going to go back to Egypt, virtually and all, to a dish that looks simple but carries a century of history. I got to eat it myself. Excited to talk about it. It's called Koshary. Koshary or I. I've seen both. I was introduced to Koshary just weeks ago whilst in Egypt for part 1 of my honeymoon. My forever roommate and I were told of this culinary carb fest and thought, we must have this. Every time the word koshary came up, you'd see an Egyptian face just light up and say it was awesome. Like, genuinely, everybody loved it there. So finally, after crossing 4 or maybe 9 lanes of active traffic, we sat down with one of our guides and tucked in. And friends, it was absolutely delightful, very comforting, and very filling. So let's take a bite out of this history, eh? See what I did there? If you've never had koshary, picture this. A bowl layered with rice, lentils, short pasta, chickpeas, and a layer of deeply fried onions. Then you pour over spiced tomato sauce and a splash of garlic vinegar and chili sauce. It's vegetarian, it's heavy, and it's comforting. And in Egypt, it is everywhere. Koshary is widely considered Egypt's national dish. You'll find it on street corners, in school cafeterias, in homes, in restaurants, eaten by students, laborers, office workers, and families, and by tourists like me. What makes koshary fascinating, though, is that no one can fully agree exactly where it came from. Some Egyptian historians suggest that a combination of grains and legumes like this may stretch back thousands of years to ancient Egypt, where lentils and grain porridge were already part of everyday life. But other scholars agree that the koshary we recognize today likely took shape much later in the mid-19th century. And it didn't come from just one place. It came from many. One popular theory begins in India. There's a dish there called, and I apologize to Indians, kishti, rice and lentils cooked together into a simple, nourishing meal. The word koshary itself may even come from this word kishti. During the British colonial period, Indian soldiers and workers passed through Egypt as part of imperial trade and military networks. With them came rice and lentils, cheap, portable, and filling. And then came another influence. In the mid-19th century, Egypt had a large Italian immigration population, and with them came, can you guess? I think you can, ye olde pasta. Macaroni, vermicelli, the kinds of noodles that now sit quietly in the middle of every bowl of koshary. So now you have Indian rice and lentils, and then Italian pasta. And then Egyptians made it their own. They added deeply fried onions that were caramelized until they were almost sweet. They added garlic vinegar, which was sharp and bright. They added spiced tomato sauce using tomatoes, a New World crop that had entered Egyptian cooking centuries earlier. There it is. What emerged was a fusion dish born in the streets by necessity. That's where koshary truly took off. In 19th century and 20th century Cairo, street vendors began selling bowls of this layered mixture to workers and students. It solved a practical problem. How do you feed a rapidly growing urban population quickly and affordably? Well, koshary was the answer. It became known as the meal of equality because everyone ate it, the poor, the middle class, and the wealthy. Same bowl, same spoon. Where we ate koshary was a restaurant. It looked like purely dedicated to this food. And what was so interesting too is that it's so simple. Everybody knows how to make it. And our guide was kind of joking that you need 4 pots and no skill. You just basically cook everything and then combine it. And then there was just this element of pure joy and charm because they identify it so much as an Egyptian dish. And it's so attainable for everybody. So I think for me, that was part of the fun. It was just seeing how happy everybody was to eat this honestly odd combination of elements that I can't explain it, but it was delicious. And koshary didn't stay frozen in time. There are different versions. So Alexandria developed its own variation. Some versions include eggs, different lentils, and different spice blends. And today you'll find gourmet versions, instant packets, and koshary restaurants across the Middle East, Europe, and North America. Admittedly, I have never seen this, but maybe I just haven't been looking for the word. So now I'm going to keep an eye out. In 2025, UNESCO officially recognized koshary as part of Egyptians' intangible cultural heritage. Not because it's elegant, but because it reflects daily life. The rituals of buying it, sharing it, passing it down. I mean, we experienced the sharing of koshary basically from the moment we set foot in Egypt. UNESCO described it as not just food, but a social practice. Can affirm. And there's something quietly profound about that. Because when you strip koshary down to its core, it's not about luxury, it's about survival. Rice and lentils are among the oldest foods humans have ever cultivated. They store well, they feed many, they cross borders easily. Every ingredient in koshary tells a story of trade, migration, empire, and adaptation. A dish shaped by colonization and reclaimed as identity. So for today's story, I genuinely had to go searching for an element or a crime around lentils, chickpeas, or macaroni. Well, I didn't look at rice, but to be fair, most of the stories were around bugs, so I went ahead and spared you of that and went for the little bit wacky story of someone dumping 500 pounds of macaroni by a creek. Now, we must say, mental health-wise, I was actually really happy and kind of touched to see how the community kind of collected around the person that they felt like had mental health struggles and just were like, dude, it's okay. It's just pasta. If you are having mental health struggles, please go see a therapist. Get some help. You're not alone. I've been there. I haven't dumped macaroni by a creek per se, but I've had my drugs and I go to therapy every week. So big supporter, but it was the only story that I could really find again that did not have bugs in it because I was like, I'm not here for that. I'm gonna have to take a shower just because I read the titles. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this week's story. Let me know in the comments if you like stories like this, if you want to hear a little bit more murder, if you want to hear a little bit more survival. I got it all. And can't wait to see you next week. Until next time, stay curious and be careful what's in your cup. Check out our show notes for sources, hit that subscribe button, rate and review the podcast anywhere you listen.